To Ghana, the country has cut down on spending ahead of next year's general elections. Now, the government has had to take this route to try and implement a raft of conditions under an IMF bailout. In his 2024 budget announcement, the country's finance minister proposed a 6.1% budget cut. Here's CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reporting from Accra.
The last budget reading in Parliament ahead of Ghana's general elections next year, the government plans to slash spending to about $19 billion in the next financial year. It's an uncommon practice in the West African nation, which usually goes on a spending spree in election years.
Total expenditure is projected at $226.7 billion, 21.6% of GDP. This projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditure commitment basis compared to the outturn in 2022.
Ghana's economy is reeling under currency depreciation, high debt, and inflation. To help the economy recover, the government has had to implement some tough fiscal measures, including debt restructuring, and also introduce new taxes as part of conditions for a $3 billion IMF bailout. Economists say the measures have further worsened the living conditions of many Ghanaians. Ahead of the budget presentation, businesses in Ghana called on the government to scrap some taxes, which they argued were eating into their profits.
Fiscal sustainability requires that we improve our tax ratios significantly, otherwise our long-term competitiveness will be eroded. As we all know, our country's 13% tax to GDP ratio is far below our peers. Our target is 18 to 20%, and we are on course for 16%, hoping to be achieved this year. In that regard, it is difficult to implement all the structural reforms and tax reliefs needed to immediately lower and/or eliminate certain tax handles.
Opposition lawmakers are concerned more taxes likely to be introduced next year could worsen the living conditions of Ghanaians.
As if the suffocating of taxes is not enough, this government has introduced a number of tax handles. One, and the way they couch it in the budget, if you are not careful and you fail to read it carefully, you won't see it. One, they have introduced taxes worth 11 billion Ghana cedis.
Meanwhile, Ghana's foreign reserves have also been dwindling over time. It fell from about 3 months of import cover of $6.3 billion at the end of last year to an import cover of 2 months as of September this year, according to the central bank. The government says it hopes to secure the second tranche of $600 million from the IMF bailout by the end of this year. It believes that amount and another $300 million due from the World Bank by the end of the year will help shore up the country's reserves. In the last election in 2020, the government recorded a fiscal deficit of 16%. The government hopes to limit its budget deficit to 5.9% of GDP next year. But some economists believe that may be difficult to achieve, given that previous governments have overshot their budgets during election years. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.